of the Always Believe house. Oh, today is a huge day in your life. I'll read through those forms y'all fill out every day. Some of them ask, like, what was the best thing that happened to you? Some of you are writing in, I drove a car for the first time. Wow, that's something you'll remember the rest of your life. Where were you at the first time you drove a car? Today, another life monumental day. You're going to graph a parabola for the first time. Oh, and you'll always remember it was with Mr. Toops. Oh. Wow, fun stuff. So a magical whiteboard appears, and let's start graphing these parabolas, because it's going to be F-U-N, fun. Oh. Let's get going. Okay, so we have up here what we're going to do, okay? Before we get to go anymore, we're going to write down the standard form of a quadratic, and it's ax squared. Let me put this up here. Right up here at the top. Let's put it at the very top. ax squared plus bx plus c. That's the standard form of a quadratic. What we just got doing is factoring these, didn't we? So we were factoring. Today we're going to graph them, and it's going to graph a curve called a parabola. Okay, so let's get going on this one. On this one right here, what we're going to do, and I forgot to put it on here, let's get the A, the B, and the C. Okay, so the A equal, the B equal, the C equal. The A equals 1, the B equals -6, and the C is equal to 8. Now then, there's something called the axis of symmetry. Write down axis of symmetry. And it's -b over 2a. This is on your formula chart. You don't have to memorize it. So let's calculate what that -b over 2a is. So draw a negative in a fraction bar, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. -b over 2a, put negative fraction bar, and my a, or my b is -6, and my a is 1, right? So if I were to calculate this out, 2 negatives makes a positive, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. My axis of symmetry is 3. Okay, now then, like, what are we talking about? Okay, you're going to see this in a minute. So I'm going to take the 3, and I'm going to put it right here. Now then, let's go through and graph this, okay? So we're going to go to the calculator. I already have a graph on my calculator, so I'm going to delete 3 times. Hit enter. Calculator's gone. To get the graph up, menu, graph is 3, function is 1. You always want to graph a function in algebra 1. Now then, we're going to graph, and it's x squared minus 6x plus 8. So x squared minus 6x, and you'll get quicker at this, plus 8. Hit enter. Wow. That looks so cool. You get a curve. Oh. That curve is called a parabola. Oh, and that's the graph of a quadratic. Calculus is the study of these curves, the motion along the curves, the area above and below the curves, lots of stuff with these curves. Higher level math is the study of these curves. You're learning the arithmetic of this. Today you're going to learn a lot of terminology, okay? Now then, what we want to do is graph to the bottom of the curve. So this is how you do this. Hit menu. Where does it say trace? It says trace at 5, so type in 5. I would not use the up and down buttons. I would just punch in the numbers. Graph trace is 1, type in 1. Notice right here, it always will start with the y-intercept. And look at the bottom right, the y-intercept 0, 8. That's an important point that you need to always know. Now then, never ever punch the up or down button. We want to get to the bottom of the curve. Always punch the left or right button because you're going across the x-axis. Don't punch the up or down button or it'll take the tracer off of the graph. So keep hitting the right arrow button until you get to the bottom of the graph. When you get to the bottom of the graph, it says minimum, and the ordered pair is 3, -1. Y'all got that? It's minimum because that's the smallest y will ever be. Now then, we're going to go back to the paper. Notice that 3 is the vertex in it. And it was 3, -1 on here, right? Now that it says fill the table to the right using the table from the calculator. So we're going to go back to the calculator, and we're going to hit Control T. Control T gives me my table, and the 3 right here was the -1. These are the numbers I need from the table, aren't they? So the 1 will be, and down on the table, when you do your table, you want 2 numbers below it and 2 numbers above it. So the numbers in the x's will be sequential, and the vertex will be in the middle, okay? Or the middle of the curve, okay? Now then, let's fill in the table. The 1 was 3. It's 3, 0, -1, 0, 3, right? 3, 0, -1, 0, 3. Something to always remember, these will always be the same. It is a symmetrical, okay? So if the vertex is a integer, if it's a fraction, it won't always be the same. If it's an integer, it's going to be symmetrical, okay? Now they graph the ordered pairs and draw the parabola that's formed. So we're going to graph the ordered pairs. So I'm going to graph right 1, up 3, draw a dot. Then I'm going to graph 2, 0. The x-intercept is a 0. That's one of my zeros in it. And then 3, -1, 4, 0, and 5, 3, right? That gives me a curve. And remember, when we started off, it was 0, 8. Okay, so that right there is going to be my parabola, right? Ho, 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 ho. It is symmetrical. The important points from this, write this down. This is the y-intercept. These two right here, are the zeros. This point right here is the vertex, and it's either the max or the min, okay? In this instance right here, it's going to be a minimum because it's the bottom, right? If it's a max, it will be the top. But those are the important parts of the graph you need to know. Now then, what are the zeros of the parabola? The zeros are the 2 and the 4, right? If I were to go back to my calculator and get rid of the table, Control T, I'm still graph tracing. Notice if I go to the left, notice what happens when I get to the 2. It says 0 on the calculator, doesn't it? And if I were to go over to the 4, you can only do this by punching the button, punching the arrows. When I get to 4, it's a 0, right? So by 0, the calculator tells you, doesn't it? Okay? If you're using graph trace, the calculator will tell you the zeros and everything. Now then, that's why you need to learn to do the calculator. Make sure you're using the calculator here. The y-intercept was 8. The max or the min, it is a minimum value because it's the bottom, and the minimum value is that number right here. The domain of the function, if it's a graph, the domain will always be all real numbers. Or they use R, okay? The R stands for all real numbers. The reason why is you can put any x you want to in that equation. So any x is going to satisfy that equation if it's a graph like this, okay? Real life it won't be. The range is not going to be everything though. The range is the y, right? Look at this graph, and I'll do it in green. The graph goes from right here, doesn't it? And it goes up, doesn't it? So my range is going to be from -1 going up, right? How do you write that? It's greater than or equal to -1, and this number will always go to the range. Okay? The next one, the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is the line that splits the parabola in two. This is the axis of symmetry. Make sure you're writing this down, okay? Pause the video so you can write this down. I'll zoom in right here so you can see. So the important things to know is the y-intercept. Obviously, when you trace, every time you trace, the trace will start at the y-intercept. I would write that ordered pair down. That's 0, 8 here in it. The next important points are the zeros, right? On this one, it's 2, 0 and 4, 0, right? Notice that if you input 2, you output 0. If you input 4, you output 0, right? The next important point is the vertex. That's the top or bottom of the graph. If it's the top, it's going to be a max. And if it's the bottom, it's going to be a min, okay? This graph here, the bottom of the graph is the vertex. It's a minimum value in it. That means the y never gets smaller than -1. That's what min means. And then the axis of symmetry, if I folded that parabola over, it would fold over that blue line with it. And that blue line is an x equal line in it. And it's x equal negative, or x equals to 3, right? Which is what we got with the negative b over 2a, right? The negative b over 2a will equal that number every single time. Okay, so my axis of symmetry was x equals 3, and that will always be this number every single time. Then vertex form. The vertex, write down the vertex. The vertex is 3 comma negative 1. The vertex is the ordered pair in the gray shaded part. This is the H, this is the K. This goes here and here. Notice that the H is 3. When I put the 3 in, I want the opposite of it. So the sign will flip. So minus 3 and then plus or minus 1. My K is minus 1 in it. So minus 1. If I were to graph this on the calculator, I would get the same exact graph. This is vertex form. And notice vertex form uses the vertex. Standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. You can factor that and get the zeros. So the vertex form is helpful if you know the vertex. It helps you write the equation of the parabola. Oh, I'm going to do one more with you, and then we're going to get the axis of symmetry for the other two. This is a lot of information, okay? You're only going to get to graph 2 of these. Make sure you're writing down all the vocab. So let's go to the next one. First off, let's get the A equal, B equal, C equal. Our A is equal to 1. Most of the time starting off we'll have A equal 1, our B is equal to 2, and our C is equal to negative 3. Now then we're going to do the axis of symmetry. And it's negative B over 2A. So we're going to draw a negative fraction bar. Our B is 2, and our A is going to be 1. There's only one negative, so it's going to be negative, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. The axis of symmetry goes right here. Okay? Now then, let's graph this. So I'm going to go to the calculator, x squared plus 2x minus 3. Delete, delete, delete. That deletes the graph. Hit enter. And then again, x squared plus 2x minus 3. So I'm going to do tab. Tab's the quickest way to get that up there. X squared plus 2x minus 3, hit enter, and I get a parabola. Okay, now then, I'm going to use trace to go to my vertex. So I'm going to hit menu, trace is 5, graph trace is 1. This is a lot of new stuff you're learning. And then the bottom of the curve is to the left in it. Notice it starts off at the y-intercept and it's 0, negative 3 in it. So I'm going to go to my graph, 0, negative 3, I'm going to put a dot here. That's going to be my y-intercept in it. So let's go back over here and we're going to trace to the left. So 1, I'm going to trace to the left till it says min. Right there. The minimum is negative 1 comma negative 4. That's my vertex in it. That's the very bottom of the graph. So go back here. Notice the negative 1 matches up, doesn't it? That will always happen. So negative 1, negative 4. This is my vertex in it. The vertex is huge. It gives you your max or your min, and it gives you your axis of symmetry. Now then, I need 2 dots above and 2 dots below. So I'm going to put negative 2, negative 3, and 0, 1. Okay, now then I'm going to use the table. So I'm going to go to here, hit Control T, and I'm going to fill in my table, right? I need to go up to the negative 3. So this right here is the numbers I need. 0, negative 3, negative 4, negative 3, 0. Notice that it's symmetrical. It will always be symmetrical on this worksheet. Okay? So this is negative 3. If you're doing it by hand, we were taught if that's negative 3, this is negative 3. If this is 0, then this one's 0. Okay? Now then we have our zeros, we have our y-intercept, and we have our vertex all in this table. So let's go down here. Let's graph the parabola. So we're going to graph negative 2. Negative 1, negative 4, negative 2, negative 3, and then these cross here and here. So my parabola will look like this. Ho, 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 ho. Now then, the zeros of the parabola are right here and right here, correct? They're this number and this number. Negative 3 and 1. The y-intercept is right here. It's negative 3 in it. The max or the min, this is the bottom of the curve, so it's a min. And the minimum value is this number right here, okay? I'm sorry, this is the vertex right here, which is comma -1, -4. So this -4 is going to be my minimum value, okay? The domain of the function, put an R, it's all real numbers. That's what the R stands for. The range, y'all look over here, the range, the parabola is from here up, right? So it goes from right here up, and it's -3 and up. So my range is going to be y greater than or equal to -4. I'm sorry, it's -4. The y-intercept's -3, okay? It's this number right here. This number will be your max or min. The axis of symmetry is what we found right here. That's going to be x equal -1. The axis of symmetry on this would be this line. That's the axis of symmetry, okay? The vertex form, write down your vertex. Your vertex is -1, comma -4. Write down the h and k. There's a lot of information. When you plug in the h, the sign flips. So this will be my h and k. The opposite of -1 is a +1, and then the k is -4 in it. This right here would graph the same parabola, okay? So x plus 1 squared minus 4. On the star review, you learn how to flip this around, okay? Now then, I'm going to leave the last two for you, but we're going to do this part right here on the other two. So let's go to this one. Okay, write down A equals 1, B equals -6, C equals 5. Remember, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. And now we're going to get our axis of symmetry. And it's going to be -b over 2a. So negative fraction bar 2. My b is -6. My a is 1. So 2 negatives makes a positive. 2 times 1 is 2, and the 6 is 3. So I'm going to get 6 over 2, right? Which is 3. That number goes right here. Let's go down to the next one. Jiminy crickets. Okay. And let's do this one. So remember, ax squared. Let's just do the a equal b equal c equal. Okay, so a equals -1, b equals -6, c equals -5. The axis of symmetry, I'm just going to put -b over 2a. So negative fraction bar 2. The b is -6. The a is -1. On this one, we got 3 negatives, right? Odd is negative, even is positive, right? So 3 negatives makes a negative. 6 divided by 2 is 3. The -3 will go right here, won't it? Okay, now then you should be able to finish the rest up. You're just going to graph the calculator, look back at the video, you're going to repeat the process. The most important thing you're learning is this vocab. Very important you're getting the vocab down, okay? Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember, you are amazing, you are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.